Change of pace now. The business news. Stephen Carroll joins me here in the studio. Hello to you, Stephen.
Hi, Rochelle.
The US and China are due to sign their new trade deal tomorrow, but there are already signs of thawing relations between them.
The United States has dropped accusations that China is manipulating its currency. Now, applying that label to Beijing had been part of the escalation of tensions between the world's two largest economies last year. The US Treasury Secretary says that China has now made enforceable commitments to not competitively devalue the yuan. Meanwhile, China has published its latest data on trade, showing the weakest growth in 3 years in 2019. Solange Mougin has the details.
Looking at the bright side, even if the big picture was a bit grim. Growth in China exports hit a 3-year low in 2019, increasing by only 0.5%, with the US trade war and a slowing global economy taking their toll. But the Chinese government focused on the good news, a year-end uptick in exports.
The growth rate was better than expected. This achievement is eye-catching and commendable.
In December, exports from China grew by over 7%, and imports too were up by 16%, a year-end progression that came with others. Both the US and China agreed in December not to raise tariffs as planned. The thawing of their trade war has led, through talks, to the finalizing of a first-step agreement.
This is major progress, just in the sense that we have something signed and we have a real expectation that both sides will then begin to meet more regularly and to discuss some of the more challenging issues, the knottier issues that they both would like to address.
In another sign of friendlier relations, the U.S. also decided to no longer label China a currency manipulator, a designation that was slapped by the U.S. on the country this summer. The Secretary of the U.S. Treasury said China has since then made commitments to refrain from competitive devaluation. Beijing welcomed the move, saying they never manipulated their currency.
Well, Stephen, in other world news, for the first time in 8 years, global sales of personal computers are actually on the rise.
That's right. This is down to two sets of figures from industry researchers, IDC and Gartner. They both showed growth in 2019. Gartner says that was driven by business demand for Windows 10 upgrades. They expect the growth to continue this year. IDC saying that Lenovo remains the world's biggest PC maker with almost 65 million computers sold last year, closely followed in the rankings by HP. Sales of PCs have been dropping in recent years as users switched more to mobile devices.
Now, Visa's made a massive acquisition in the financial technology sector, Stephen.
It's paying an eye-watering $5.3 billion for the software firm Plaid. Plaid is Plaid, I should say. I don't know why I'm mispronouncing that. So there's a company that helps fintech firms connect to customers' bank accounts. It's used by the likes of PayPal and Venmo. A really big purchase for Visa, which is looking to expand into electronic payments from their traditional cards.
Well, Stephen, we were just talking about it. Day 41 of the transport strike here in France. It's not just passenger services, though, that have been affected by this.
That's right. Railway freight services have been hit by the strike action as well. Operators in this sector are estimated to be losing €1 million a day, and there are fears for many firms in the sector's survival.
Inside these freight containers, there are auto parts, furniture, merchandise for supermarket shelves. Tons of goods that are stuck at this rail yard.
The problem is that this train is currently stopped here. Its final destination is Italy, and the border crossings are still partially shut. It was supposed to leave at 5 in the evening, but it's now stuck here.
These freight trains aren't stopped because of striking train drivers, but because of protesting signal operators. The freight trains travel long distances, and if just one pointsman is on strike, shown as black dots on this map, then hundreds of trains are stuck.
The short-term consequences are dramatic. With 80% fixed costs for the freight companies, this means that some will not be able to get past this.
Are some transporters going to close?
Yes, some businesses have cut working hours. Since they don't have big reserves, they're struggling financially.
The freight branch of the SNCF has been hit particularly hard. They've been losing around €1 million every day during the strike. And the timing couldn't be worse for an already struggling sector. Train shipments have dropped by half in the past 15 years, from a fifth of transport to under 10%, even though the railways remain one of the most environmentally friendly methods of shipping.
Now, the car makers Renault and Nissan have denied reports that their alliance is in trouble, Stephen.
Both companies have restated their commitment to the alliance. That's despite reports that they were planning to end their relationship. Renault's chairman, Jean-Dominique Senard, has told the Belgian newspaper L'Echo that the Renault-Nissan alliance is not dead and was nowhere near the point of collapse. Nissan has also put out a statement today saying that it was in no way planning to end the 20-year partnership between the car makers. Both companies have suffered since the arrest of the alliance's architect, Carlos Ghosn. He was arrested on charges of financial misconduct at Nissan, which he denies.
And finally from you, Stephen, staying with Carlos Ghosn, and after his dramatic escape, of course, from Japan, an unusual warning from a Japanese company.
It was reported that he was transported at one stage when leaving Japan in a case used for music equipment. Now, not something that's been officially confirmed, but the Japanese music instrument maker Yamaha has nonetheless advised its customers on Twitter not to get into large instrument cases. In a tweet on its wind instrument account, it said that it's too late once an unfortunate accident occurs. After the tweet went viral, the company tweeted again just to say that it was really stating something that was quite obvious.
With all of these rumours flying around, I see a film in the next couple of years about how this escape
That'd have to be, yeah.
took place. Stephen, thank you very much for our roundup of the business. All right, stay with us here on France 24. We've got plenty more news headlines coming up after a short break. You're watching France 24.